You're listening to The Happy Podcast with your host, Ava Keenan.
Hey everybody, I am your host, Ava Keenan, here on the Happy Podcast, and today we have a very, very special guest, two-time Olympic goer, I guess, Olympian, two times Olympian, Olympic gold medalist, Jonny Mosley. Welcome, Jonny. Thank you so much for being on. Super excited to have you. Sorry for spacing on how to say Olympian, but got it now.
Yeah, it would have made it a lot easier for you if you could just say two-time Olympic gold medalist, but I couldn't get that done. Sorry. So, you had to
Sorry about that.
figure out I gotta stop myself. So sorry about that. Sorry, I couldn't make that.
Well, it's hard when you're introducing a new trick and they didn't know how to score it. I just watched that run like an hour ago, and I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, thanks so much for being on.
Oh, great. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna start out with like some basic questions. Like how did you get into mogul skiing in general?
Well, we were out here at Palisades, Tahoe. We were sort of weekend skiers, my brothers and I, my family. It was a kind of a family thing we did. We would come up every weekend from the Bay, and my dad and mom pretty much immediately put us in the little programs they have here. So little, Mighty Mites, and then so we started racing. And then my older brother, who's 6 years older than me, I have two older brothers. They kind of were into skateboarding, surfing, and at the time, we're talking mid '80s here in Tahoe, freestyle skiing, especially at Palisades, known as Squaw then, freestyle was hot. Like it was kind of like that was the kind of the World Cup had just been, it was sort of starting to be considered for the Olympics. And they just filmed Hot Dog the movie here, so a lot of the pros lived here. And a guy named Kevin Whiteman, who was a World Cup combined skier, specializing in ballet, had just formed the first freestyle team here at Squaw. And my brother kind of got wind of it, and he entered us in like a dual mogul contest. It was like, red flag, blue flag, free cookies, everyone could enter. And we all did it. Had a great time, and Kevin came up to us and like, you guys should be on the freestyle team. What are you doing? And my brother was like, yeah, we should. So we went to our parents and said, we want to do freestyle. And my dad and mom were like, okay. They sort of kind of knew what it was. They were interested in us racing, but they didn't have a vested interest in us going the distance. And my brothers were persuasive, and so we joined the freestyle team, and they didn't want to take me because I was super young, I think, and they didn't. It was, and my mom was like, "Well, you're taking if I'm signing up these two guys, the older brothers, you're taking the younger one too, because we're not going to like a different contest." And so he said yes, and my first days as a freestyler were on ballet skis, and we went immediately, started to learn ballet because he was really into combined, Kevin Whiteman, and so we all had to learn ballet, and then we would go in the afternoons to the jump site and learn twister spreads and hellies and all that stuff, and then we would go ski bumps in the afternoon. That was the rhythm, and we just did it over and over again.
Yeah. What are ballet skis like?
You've never been on ballet skis, Ava?
No.
Come on, man. This is like freestyle skiing's roots, man. Well, I'll take you back to the origins of freestyle skiing. The way it first started was like, who's the best skier on the mountain? And that was where Wayne Wong came in, that famous contest in New Hampshire. And essentially, they just put a run up and said, hey, ski this run. And, who can ski it the best is kind of the best skier on the mountain, right? And so there was a little bit of moguls in there, and there was a little jump. And so they would ski all this stuff. But usually, at the end of a run, there's always like a blank space, right? There's like no, it's smooth. So you got to show your mastery of your skis. So you do some spin moves, you do a Tin Man, you do a leg breaker. Some of these moves go back to the early days of like Dick Durance and all those guys, but that was the early days of ballet skis. Now, by the time I hit ballet skiing in the mid 80s, it had developed into a very like figure skating on skis. And at that time, because I was so young, my ballet skis, the ballet skis for the pros were probably 140s, 150s maybe. I was on like a 90. So like I would go get kids skis and mount a little. They didn't make ballet skis my size, so I'd get these little tiny like kids starter skis that were probably 9 centimeters long, and those would be my ballet skis.
Those are tiny.
Very
Yeah.
tiny, yeah. And then you long poles. Then you get poles up to your.
Yeah,
You've
those
seen ballet.
things are-
I'm assuming you've seen ballet.
Yeah. My coach tried to. Last year we had a day where our chairlift leading up to our course was shut down, and so there's really no like efficient way to lap it. So he just brought us over to it's like kind of like flatter run. And he tried to teach us ballet because he was really good, and he used to do it. And oh my goodness, I was like, oh, like that doesn't even look that bad. And we were all like falling over, and it was rough. It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard. It's definitely one of the harder disciplines, but it does teach you to like learn how to use your ankles and edge change, and it gives you like a lot of dexterity. But you guys all ski backwards now and hit the park, and that's kind of honestly that's sort of like the modern day incarnation of ballet. So
yeah. Were you able to do like the thing? I don't know what it's called. Where you like put the poles like on your stomach and then you do like a fold over it?
yeah, the pole flips. Yeah. No, I was.
Did you-
I can't. I could. Yeah, I
that's
did
so
those. I was pretty good in ballet. I got to like it. I really loved ballet. I did a lot of it, so I got pretty far. I ended up. I think my best result on the World Cup was like 5th. So I was all right. I could do gut Rudy, which is like a pole flip with a 1.5 twist. That was my biggest trick, and I could do rock and roll full, which is that's probably the hardest trick in the book. You rock up. It's not just like where you slam it in your gut and vault over the poles, but you don't really slam it in your gut. By the way, it never hits your gut if you do it correctly. Basically, the leg kick gets you up, and then you use your biceps and your shoulder muscles. Like ballet skiers do a lot of shoulder press. So once you hit the apex, you push off like that, and that's how you get extended and get the vault. Just like a gymnast off a vault. Like instead of the vault, your poles are your vault. So once you hit the springboard, that would be your kick. Then you use the pole to vault higher up into the air. It's kind of a crazy. Whoever did it first was a nut, and we should figure that out.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but yeah, I could do pole flips. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick. This is the most I learned about ballet skiing. I always saw how sick it looked, but I've never gotten like a debrief before.
Well, let's put it this way. It got weird, and it for good reason it got canceled. And put it out of the Olympics. But the fun of the spirit of trying to do weird stuff on skis and innovate and create is what ballet was, and that is freestyle, and that still lives to this day through via you now. So it's the spirit of ballet still carries on.
Yeah. Wait. Sorry, I have one more question about ballet skiing because it's really interesting. I never learned about.
I'll talk about ballet all day long if you want.
How did you learn like new tricks? Because I know nowadays we have water ramps, airbag, but like you're never really like. How do you learn? Did you send it? Go for it.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, the bigger tricks, like, you spend a lot of time on snow, like the axles and all those things where you have to set your edge and jump up and do a 7 or a 9. You learn those on snow just hiking. You skate up and you do just thousands of them. It's the only way you learn it. The pole flips you learn usually on grass, with no skis on, just your tennis shoes with a spotter, or like a sand pit into a mattress, and someone spots you the whole time. That's how you do your first pole flips. And then you take it to snow. The only problem is that, and then once you get to snow, there's really no spot. It's very, very hard to spot. So once you get to snow, you kind of have to full commit. and it's scary as hell.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the poles don't stick in the ground. It's really it is scary learning your first pole flips, and it's kind of dangerous. I remember trying to spot a girl the first time, and I missed a spot, and then I'm like, okay, now you're ready to go. It was on a rock and roll, and she went up and went for the flip, and the poles came back the other way, and I couldn't catch her, and she landed on her face, and her ski came back and hit her in the back of the head and sliced her head open, and I could see her skull, and it was right before she was supposed to compete at junior nationals. So stupid.
Oh my goodness.
I was trying to help her like get ready for juniors, and I'm like, yeah, you can do that trick. Let's do it. And she freaking stitches. See you later. No nationals.
Good
thing. What happened.
Helmets nowadays.
Yeah, it would have been helpful. They probably should have. These days they probably would wear a helmet for ballet. That's an interesting concept.
What was it like skiing without a helmet back then? Like just in general. Did you
so crazy, right? We didn't even think about it. I mean, I don't know. We didn't think about it. It was great. But but we did wear helmets for uprights. Remember upright? That's what we call upright aerials. Before you should know that we weren't allowed to flip when we were your age.
Yeah.
It was like sanctioned.
Yeah.
So we had upright aerial contests. The only times you could go flip was when you went to the water ramps, and then you would go to like a NORAM, and then you do your first ones. But regionally, there was no flipping. You could not flip. Nobody learned flips. So
you couldn't even flip on the mountain, right? You'd get like kicked off, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I think it was kind of. Yeah, that was exactly right. So anyway, what did you ask me? I can't remember the question.
What was it like skiing without a helmet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, that was it. I don't know. It was. I think I notice it more now how nice it is sometimes to ski without a helmet, even though I kind of feel naked without it. But yeah, we didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
It was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching the one from your run from 1998.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so crazy how no one was wearing a helmet, and then just 4 years later, everyone was wearing a helmet.
Well, that's true and not true.
Or like just the competitors mainly.
Well, nobody wore helmets in '98 in moguls, and then going forward to 2002, I was the only one that wore a helmet in 2002 because I was like, I don't know, I'm doing a flip here. Why don't I wear a helmet? So I wore a helmet. Then almost immediately, the following year, when FIS approved the Mitra, the Cork 7 and then flips, they required helmets at that point. So
that's fair.
You're right. Yeah.
Speaking of that Cork 7, how you feel about the evolution in 22 years? How you've taking it from the dinner roll? Now we have people doing like Cork 14s.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I mean it's incredible. I obviously wanted it to go that direction. I was obviously very passionate about it moving along, and when I created the only trick I really created, even the 360 mute grab, I ripped off from JP Auclair for that crew when I put it in the games in '98, and then going into 2002, I was getting ready for the X Games, and that's when I created the actual dinner roll, which was actually more of a flat spin than what I did in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
But what I got approved for 2002 was the actual dinner roll, but I couldn't actually do it in the moguls because physically I couldn't get it done. It had too much. There was too much too much momentum. Like when I came off the jump, when I would do the actual dinner roll, the one I got silver in the X Games, the one it was more like I would carve off the jump and I would set myself super flat like a toilet bowl on the trampoline.
Mm-hmm.
And when my feet would come down below me, it would create so much whip that I could never land it. But that was the trick that I got approved for 2002. So anyway, long story short, the one I by the time I figured it out, I was only like 2 weeks out from the Olympics. And so I just ended up doing more like a cork 7, and it was much more consistent. So that's what I ended up doing. And so now it's great to see, but I didn't want to tell the officials that like I changed my trick, because they were not gonna be like happy with that.
Yeah.
Just to clear that up, since with your crew. I think it's incredible. I wish they would let them do more. I mean, I wish they would, at least at the World Cup level, let them do doubles and all the stuff I see Kingsbury doing. And I mean, they should be doing all that stuff. I mean, but I'm conflicted over it because I know it's dangerous and it's a little scary. But I'm not conflicted at the pro level about those guys should be able to do what they want to do, and it should be dictated. It's amazing actually to see that it's still not dictated by the athletes. I'm like still shocked that still exists, that you've got these skiers I mean, maybe there should be some discussion, like maybe they should get together with Mick and say, hey, what are we missing here? What should we do to make this work for everybody and keep it safe? But I mean, he can do it. Let him do it. I don't know. I think it's what I think is cool is that it's brought the kind of origins of freestyle back together. Because I was a combined skier, so I did aerials, moguls, and ballet. Mm-hmm. So I spent so many hours learning ballet. I spent so many hours learning aerials, and I spent a lot of hours practicing moguls. And that was just kind of like how everyone did it. And so to be a true freestyle skier and be a combined skier, you had to learn aerials back then.
Yeah.
You had to do everything. But then as moguls got specialized and those guys didn't have to flip, none of them had to learn like any of that stuff. So this has made it so now you have basically aerials and moguls combined in one event, which is kind of cool. Kind of brings it back to its roots. I think it keeps the tether between, because in my opinion, free skiing, freestyle, all that stuff is all part of freestyle, is part of like what makes us pick this sport over alpine racing. This idea of progressing, being able to iterate, learn new tricks, like learn new things. That's like what freestyle is. That's the root.
Yeah.
That's the roots. And so everyone should, everyone should be learning all this stuff at all times. And so I'm happy that it kind of brought those two worlds together, besides just the visuals and how it looks and all that part.
Yeah. Do you think that if they let doubles happen, do you think it would change the sport too much? Do you think that then they try and making the jumps bigger, landings longer, and then all of a sudden it kind of starts to blend with like park almost in a way, kind of?
Well, my answer to all that stuff is that you got to let it go. I mean, that's the whole point of of freestyle. Is if you try to fight like the evolution of it, you're just going to lose in the end. Because it's moving. Its whole premise is that it moves, and so like you got to move with it. Now, to be clear, there's obviously like limitations on just the size of everything, right? Like all of a sudden, if you're doing doubles, and then where do you cap it? And then is it triples? And then all of a sudden, you've got there's already that huge gap in the mogul course where the kickers and the landing hill is and all that stuff. And I miss that. I mean, back in the day, being a great mogul skier meant having to pick the pad to land, and it was a different style of skiing. And so, but I don't think you can fight that. I mean, if it blends and becomes park, then that's where it goes. I mean, the biggest problem I think is that the Olympics and everything, doesn't move quick enough. So, you kind of get like it kind of freezes the sport in one place. Yeah. And then the sport moves on. That was what happened to me, right? Like after 98, I knew where the sport was going, right? Like in 96, JP, JF, Vinny, all those guys, they were mogul skiers, but they had started to figure out to go in the park and land backwards and do snowboard style tricks. And, I was like, damn, exactly. That's freestyle, man. That's what our freestyle predecessors would have done. And they learned from snowboarding, and like that's what made freestyle great, and that's what moves the sport. And but obviously by the time we got to 98, and I did 360 mute grab and kind of got the credit for it in the mainstream, but that sport was already launched, right? Like slopestyle was happening, and it was moving along, and I went to be with those guys and compete in that X Games Big Air. but moguls had not adapted. It was right there, and that's where why I came in. But I didn't have the opportunity to go to the Olympics in slopestyle because it didn't exist in the Olympics. So I was like, I could go back into moguls and try to change them, and that's kind of the whole evolution. So if you look at that fast forward, I think you could run into the same issue, where the sport of moguls gets locked up and all the skiing just passes it by, right? So I think that's the concern with it's the challenge, I should say. It's the challenge with always putting, keeping the sort of regulator on, if you will, is that then, if you're the type of athlete that wants to progress and do new things and you want to be where you want to be with, you want to move where the sport is going, and if the sport and if the organization or freestyle doesn't move with you, then you're gonna leave, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, duels have been around for years, decades, and they just took them till this next Olympics to put duels in. I'm just like, what's taken so long? I feel like as like mogul skiing alone doesn't have as many viewers as it could have, and I feel like it should have. And I think that like duels is a big, especially for people like the average Joe who doesn't know much about moguls. They see two people coming down, like it clicks a lot more for them. It's more exciting to watch rather than having to watch singles. And it's just like, oh, how was it scored? Wait, how come that guy just did better than that guy? Even sometimes I'm watching and I'm like, how do they judge that? That makes like how is there a 3-point difference when I feel like they looked exactly the same? So I feel like, yeah, we're kind of lacking. We're falling behind. We got to pick it up, make it more exciting.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't know if that's yeah. Yeah. At least they figured out duels, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like comparing like the Olympics now to when you did it, do you think that there's any like big differences at all, or do you think it's generally stayed similar or the same?
Well, I mean, the skiers have obviously gotten better. I mean, I mean, that's really why I lost 02 was I was slow, going into the bottom jump just because I had to set up for that thing because it was new and I hadn't had a lot of practice with it, and I needed to kind of like check and get, and I had to hit the transition, right? Like I couldn't skip to the mogul. Like if you're doing a quad twister or whatever, you just hit that mogul and absorb that thing and still stand up and do a quad twister. But I had to like hit that tranny and really slow down. But now these kids go into that, you guys go into these things like full speed and, do, triple cork or whatever, cork 1080, and it's like nothing. And so that's the biggest difference is the facility with which you guys are doing these complex tricks, and they're complex. I mean, the aerial skills of everyone on the tour now, or all you guys, is amazing. I mean, now the amount of time you have to spend learning how to do aerials and do not just aerials but off-axis tricks is very cool. I mean, so it's changed a ton. I mean, the discipline, the like what you have to do to be a competitive mogul skier, the amount of work, the amount of complexity, the variety of skills you have to have, is something I think is really cool. I felt that way when I was a combined skier, and I think it's that to me is rad. So, but yeah, I mean it looks similar. I mean, it's very I mean, it's hard. I know it's very hard to get down those mogul courses, and they're gnarly. You guys, and I think it's cool. I like watching it. I like the complexity of it. I mean, to me, it's I like it.
Yeah. I kind of can. I mean, I can kind of like relate to what you're saying about the cork. That thing is scary. It's the trick it's taken me the longest to progress on. The trick it took me the longest to land. I mean, I took like 20 of them to my face. I was learning. I got all banged up. That trick is still scary, and I tried to bring it to this past selections, and it was going pretty well in training. It's just my axis was a little bit more upside down than I'd like it to be.
Yeah.
It wasn't too crazy or anything. And then the last day, what you were talking about with speed is we were just like, I mean, I can go pretty fast into a cork, but I definitely like hold it back if I were just doing like a back X one. So we just kind of decision to just kind of like analyze score, speed, how my turns were looking. So, like, I think it's more beneficial to just be able to go huge on bottom there with a back X. Like,
Well, yeah, and that's fine. I mean, and I think that's what makes the sport. That's what makes it cool is that you have to make that decision or make that call whether it's going to be better to just go big and do a trick that's easier for you or try to go big and do the complex trick.
yeah,
That's freestyle. I mean, that's what separates the crew. I mean, if you just look at it, fast forward too. I mean, and you're obviously, I mean, just look at how old are you again?
14.
That's amazing. I mean, the fact that you're 14, you're doing the trick that basically was my main jam when I was 26. Man, you're doing it when
Yeah,
you're 14, so it's
yeah,
pretty funny. Like that tells you a lot about where it's going. So
yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
like when people are like, "Oh man, so cool! You did that 360 mute crab in 1998 when you won," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's like pretty much what every 8-year-old mogul skier does now." So.
I mean, we all have you to thank. Who knows? I mean, it could have been years until someone else decided to finally like get the guts to go up and do both of those things. So I mean, you.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I definitely I the dinner roll, the cork 7 in '02. I'm not sure I would have done that if I didn't have the gold medal in my back pocket. I definitely
Yeah.
took that as, but I don't know. I think both times I have like a real, I don't like it when I can't do whatever is sort of being done
Hmm.
at the time. Like I always prided myself and it's like skateboarding. It's kind of like you're not really a pro skater unless you can do all the tricks, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're a street skater, like that is the sport. Like
Yeah.
that is the sort of like fundamentals of like what makes you. So you have to learn everyone else's tricks, and then
Yeah.
you gotta make up your own. So I always wanted to do whatever was going on out there. I just felt like this competitive nature to do that. So when I learned that mute grab from those guys, I was like, man, I got to do this. I mean, I wasn't even like, I don't know. I wasn't. I'm not. Of course, looking back, it was definitely an asymmetric advantage I had because when I did it in Breckenridge a couple weeks before or whatever, only like 2 other guys were doing it, and
Yeah.
one of them didn't make the Olympics. The other one was from France. He made the Olympics, but he wasn't like, he was kind of a great skier, but not quite an Olympic level mogul skier. So he didn't have the full package. So he went to the Olympics, but he didn't make finals. So it was a huge advantage I had that I had this unique trick, even though you didn't get extra points for it at the time. But I'm not sure that's how I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it like, hey, I can do it, so I want to do it.
Yeah.
And that got me in trouble in my career too. I mean, I went through whole seasons trying to do stuff that I probably shouldn't have been doing, like trying 360. I think I had like my 97 season when I got worse somehow. 96 went down to 97 because I was like insistent on doing 720s, which,
Hmm.
as you know, that might be the hardest trick in the book, straight 720.
That trick
But
is so difficult.
yeah. And so I lost so many contests trying stuff, that if you were Hannah Carney, she was my coach. I love Hannah. She's probably been like, no, your percentage of landing that trick in practice is only 50. Like, what are you thinking? You can't do that in
Yeah.
the con. I'd be like, I'm gonna get it this time. Don't worry, I got this. I mean, I
Yeah.
lost a lot of contests like that. So I don't know. That's just kind of has always been my approach to the sport, and it's just like, I think it's what gives me motivation to train. Like I'm not even sure. I don't even know if I would have made it back to the '02 Olympics, um, if I hadn't sort of decided that I wanted to try to do that dinner roll. And train for that, because that gave me so much motivation to do all the other stuff. Like I wasn't even on the team when I decided I was going to do that. I had been off for 2 years competing X Games and slopestyle and skiing and movies. But when I had that thought that I could do it in the bumps, I was like heavily motivated. I was like, what do I have to do? I had to get I had to go get in shape and get a trainer, and like I was, not in mogul shape. You know what I mean? And but it was like a bone. Like once I had that incentive, I was like, I can work day and night. I'm thinking about that day and night, and that was what the motivation was for me to get back. Get back on the World Cup, and then I got to win, get the Olympics. It was like it's a grind. The actual work of mogul skiing, and competing in the Olympics and competing in the World Cup. It's a grind. It's hellish. It's like stress, grind, stress, grind, stress, grind, repeat. And so you got to have something that you're like fired up on. And for me, that was like working on new stuff or working on a new iteration of some technique or a new trick. So, that's I think it's like a fundamental. That's why I think I love freestyle. That's why I got into it.
Yeah, and I know what you mean. Like in practice, I'll be like trying to trick that I just like can't get, or something like this happened like 2 weeks ago. I was trying to get back dialed in for selections, and I was just having the hardest time all day to touch the ski. Never mind, like grab it, even though like on water amps I had like dialed. I was so mad. I was like, oh my god, I just want to get this. My coach is like, how about we go to a straight mute? And I was like, wait. How about that? Wait, just give me a second. Just how about this? If I don't get it this time, then I can go to a straight mute. And then I'd like miss it. He's all, yeah, I think you should go to a straight mute. I'm like, but I just figured something else out that's new. So you should probably let me try the back mute again. And then after a couple of rounds of that, I finally got it. But I was just too stubborn to go to the straight mute because I was so like persistent and locked in on just getting the back mute.
That's it though. That's why you love moguls. I'm convinced that's why some people ski moguls and some people don't. Like that's the process that you have to love. And that story right there tells me everything I need to know about why you're where you are and how well you're doing. And because I was the same way. Like I would just hike that thing until I got it, and I wouldn't want somebody to pull me off of it. I would be like, because it gives you that satisfaction, and you gotta that's what it takes. That's why moguls is such a weird sport, but it gives you a lot of those opportunities. Right, to work on something and isolate that skill and work on it, grind, and hike back up and do it again, and have that interaction with your coach. Man, that's so great to hear. That's exactly how I used to operate as well. So I think it's very unique to a lot of sports have it, but moguls has it in a weird way for sure. That's cool. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So you ended up. So you went to selections. Sorry, I know you're interviewing me, but you went to selections. And you got 6th or something, 10th?
Ninth.
What, 9th? Oh, so that was just out of that's what you were saying. That's just out of the super final. Okay.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Does that get you? Selections wasn't like a thing when I was around. I was sort of already up there, and when they brought that in. Mm-hmm. But does that get you a something NORAM?
That gets me full NORAM tour. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. And have you done the NORAM tour before?
No, I just have got like a FIS age this year.
Oh,
well,
cool.
I mean, actually, they just changed FIS age to 13, which is pretty frustrating. But now I'm 14, and so no, I've never done norms before, and I want to go to Deer Valley, and I want to do that one. But my God, that course is intimidating. I'm like I'm watching the World Cups last year. I was like standing at the bottom of that, and I'm just like looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to ski that soon. It's
the top section is so hard. I'm sorry to put that in your head, but it's like these really tight, sharp, steep turns, and it's a hard course. It's good. It's a great course. You'll love it, but you're gonna have to learn to love it because you're gonna compete on it a lot.
Yeah. All of my friends who did NORAM last year came back. I'm like, how was it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I can't speak for like 2 to 3 more days. I just
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. That's exciting. That's good for you. Yeah. NORAMs. That's a big step.
Yeah.
You'll congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So you were talking about earlier how you always liked to keep up to date with what everyone was doing. Still that
Yeah.
way now? You still can you still throw down on a mogul course?
Oh my God. I was out skiing today, and there's at Palisades we have like this. It was like it rain froze, so there was really just one line to ski, and it was
Ugh.
Siberia above the Kangaroo Kicker, and there had been enough skiers through there that it actually was nice winter snow, and then there was the Kicker. But luckily, the Kicker wasn't crowded with like all the teams, which it normally is, because it wasn't like ideal
Mhm.
conditions. So I usually avoid it because I don't want to get in there with those guys because I don't flip anymore. I stopped flipping, um, and I don't do corks. I don't do anything anymore. I mean, I do a 360 mute and maybe a 7, a 5. But I was in there skiing and I was hitting the jump and doing threes. I mean, they were awful. They were my first threes of the year, and I'm now just like hanging on to a good three. It went from like I've gone from like it just keeps sliding and sliding. So the answer is no. I'm not trying to keep up with the kids anymore, especially in that arena. I feel like I'm trying to work my skills, and I love skiing bumps. Trying to maintain my skills there, get better on the groomers. Like fake being like a racer. Stuff I can work on, stuff that I can actually work on without as an old guy. And carving is one of those things you can work on into your into your 80s. You don't take any beatings. So no, but I'm not trying to keep up trick wise. I've given that up. I mean, I'll still hit a rail here and there. I love jumping in the bump course. I'll do a 3 in the bump course. I love mogul jumps, but
Yeah.
it's just even trying to get that mute these days. I mean, it's not easy. It's like flexibility is
It's like
it's hard. Hard.
yeah.
It's hard. I took it for granted, man.
I mean, still most than what I mean. You're still doing more than what most 49 year olds can do.
I Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
That's good. That's good to hear. I haven't done an
yeah,
assessment, but yeah, that's good to hear.
yeah.
Yeah, kinda,
I'd say
that's
I'd say you're doing pretty good. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, my dad. I
What
go
about
out
yeah?
with my dad.
What's your dad's bag of tricks? What's he got?
He's got a. I had to teach him a shifty the other day. He thought that was cool. He
Oh,
saw
that's cool. Yeah,
he saw me do that off a little roller. He said, "What was that?" He's
yeah.
all,
Hell
"It's
yeah.
not quite a twister. It's gonna like bring up your legs a little bit." He's all,
Yeah.
"Wait, break it down for me." And I had to like like a little debrief on what a shifty was. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna try it." So he
Oh, that's
tried it.
cool.
Didn't quite get enough air. Goes up and tries it again. He was like, "Was that it? That felt cool." I was like,
I
"That's pretty cool."
I
Yeah.
like your. I did do one of those today. The Cossack. I like your.
Cossack. Me too. I did one of those today too. I did a I guess a knockoff Cossack though. Instead of going like that, I just did it where I like put my poles in between my legs.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a different style. That's more like those aren't easy. Those are cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think our freestyle is more like with the poles down, but that's more like those are cool too. Some guys on the tour used to do those with the poles in between. It takes like more time, more air.
Really?
But that's your goal, Keenan. You got to get to the Cossack, man.
He's
That's
got he tries. He tried a Cossack the other day. He's just not flexible enough. Like he gets as far as he can go, which just isn't very far.
yeah.
And I mean, even for myself, I've been always baffled because people are like, "Oh my goodness, like this is like an actual photo of me. I'm fully like my legs are fully out."
Oh, that's
And
solid. Yeah, you
yeah,
got a
and
good one.
I'm like, they're like, "Oh, so you're like flexible and you can do the splits, right?" I'm like, "No, I'm not flexible at all." So I don't
Yeah.
really know like how I can do this in the air, but not like anywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
yeah.
that is weird. Yeah, I did like I am fairly. I can't do the splits straight across, but I can sit and straddle. Um,
Yeah.
but I did that for like uh, one summer forever, I sat in front of the TV and straddle Keenan. So that's what your dad's gonna have to do. Sit there in front of the computer and straddle, cross, and it'll improve. But you're right. I agree with you. There doesn't seem to be a correlation between like splits and all that stuff and being able to do a Cossack. It's kind of more. I don't know. It's probably something to do with the hips or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's cool. That's good to hear that the young crew is still trying to throw Cossacks and stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to teach some of the younger guys on the jump side. Actually, I was trying to teach them how to do it because I saw one of them go off. I saw him do like the pole method, and their coach was like trying to like explain how it's like they couldn't really quite understand the concept of like
pointing
like that way.
Yeah.
And I like was like overheard him, and I was like, wait, like let me show you something really quick. And I like showed them how I do mine, and they're like, oh, that makes sense. So then there's this whole little train of like little guys learning how to do a Cossack. And I was like, oh my goodness, like look at them go. Yeah, because that trick, no one does that trick anymore. It's always just spread or twister spread. I'm like, guys, you're forgetting about the Cossack.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. That's one thing if I were to make a change in the freestyle rules, if I were at those FIST guys, I would try to add a category or an overall impression judge that would allow for if someone came along and did a Cossack or something cool that hadn't been done that was unique, it would give the judges an opportunity to have context. So they could be like, well, that was really cool, even though we haven't seen that in 10 years, but the way the scoring is now, they're handcuffed by the degree of difficulty, right?
Yeah.
So, and then all the athletes just continue to do whatever is the most difficult and get scored well. Where the inflection point between ease of execution and difficulty go. So everyone just does the same tricks. And I think that is not good for the sport. That does not make that does not make great entertainment.
Yeah.
And so that would be the one fix. Like, have a judge that's just there to do what they call overall impression. They do this in snowboarding, and that would give them the opportunity to be like, hey, we've seen too many of these backflip iron crosses.
Yeah.
This person did, an iron cross Cossack or a straight 720, and it would help move the sport and diversify it, I think, in a way visually that would be very helpful, because you're right. Like, it's just now, if you ever see someone do a Cossack, you're like, oh, that was really cool, or a splitster or something like that, So that would be that's my one gripe with where they're going with that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of messed up. There's just no like reward for being creative.
Yeah,
a couple years back, I saw someone go and switch and hit a mogul jump switch. They did a 540, came back like they were in moguls, flipped around, went switch, came off to 540, landed forward. And so I looked at like the rule book and the way they score. There is no difference in points coming in backwards than it is forwards. I'm like, that could be like one of the hardest things that you could do on a mogul course, and you're not even rewarding it. I feel like that's how you'd bring a whole new side of the game into mogul skiing. And that's also how I think you'd get more people excited. You'd get the younger generations like looking at it and be like, oh, I want to do that, because it just creates a whole different sport in like a really good way. And that just baffled me, how that going in backwards wasn't any more points than going in forwards. I feel like just coming in backwards alone and just flipping back around forward should be more than like a backflip.
Definitely. But you're getting at sort of it's like a game of whack-a-mole where it's so hard to, assess all these little nuances and to put values on every little piece, right? And it makes it really hard to judge too. And the athletes are always doing stuff that's new, and they're way ahead of like the people who are organizing, right? Or who are helping. Look, you have to you have to give credit where credit's due. This sport would not be in the Olympics without FIS and the organization that that the FIS brings and the Olympic Committee and all that stuff. Like you need that,
Yeah.
but it's very hard to keep putting values on everything. That's why I think it's better to just have a trained eye, a judge who knows what they're looking at, be able to assess it for context and where it sits and where you're at, where skiing is at right now, and allow for some creativity. So like exactly what you said, which is really that's the part that is kind of the lifeblood of this back to the roots of this sport, why people got into it. I mean, if you weren't into creativity, just be a racer or whatever, so that's where the roots of the sport are. So there's got to be some way to get it back. And I don't know what the solution is, but I think that's a possible solution, like an overall impression judge, just one judge that looks at the whole scene. And to your point, it would maybe attract the kids that are maybe looking at it as being too rigid and want to go ski slow.
Yeah. I almost feel like, obviously, I know it's never happened, but having like a average Joe, someone who's never watched mogul skiing, judge, and just judge it based off of how cool they think it looks. She'd be like, oh wait, that one was unique. I've seen like 40 people come down this course and they just did something cool. I don't know what it was, but it looked cool. We're gonna give them a high score for that. I almost feel like that'd be funny. I feel like just like messing around and just I'm like doing like a little like experiment or like video and just seeing what that guy thinks, because I feel like it would just bring some more creativity back, even because you're just going off not off what scores the highest or what everyone else is doing, but just what looks cool and what it looks unique.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just found this question that I wanted to ask when we were on the topic of the Olympics, but I didn't quite get the chance to ask it. So you were in 98 you were in Japan, right?
Yeah, 1998 was Japan. Yes.
And then 2002 was in Salt Lake, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what was the biggest difference between competing out of the country and then on home turf?
Oh, yeah. Man, I competing out of the country in general for me I was always more successful. There's just less distractions. I mean, even just TV. Like you don't even want to watch the TV over there.
Yeah.
So like just when you're more focused on kind of the task at hand. In the Olympics, same goes. I mean, I think the Japan experience was, I guess there were less distractions. I mean, I certainly going into it's hard to control for the other factors too. Like going into '98, I was a nobody. I mean, I won within the freestyle world, so I didn't have like these distractions. Going in '02, I was like overhyped or super hyped, so it was hard to hard to stay out of the say no to stuff and stay focused. But as far as being in one country or the other, I mean, I'd say that's the biggest change, the distractions. I mean, I'm not sure I even realized how unique that was to be on home soil.
Yeah.
I'm not sure to even registered until later how rare that is to be in your Olympic cycle and be at home. Like some athletes will never get that, right? It's so rare that it comes. So I think I kind of undervalued that. I'm not sure I appreciated that fully going in for whatever reason. I think if I had that back again, I would change the way I approach that Olympics, because obviously there's a lot more attention on a U.S. Games but I loved Japan. I mean, I just loved Japan in general, and it was just such a great experience. And we kind of approached it the same way. I mean, both places we didn't stay in the Olympic Village. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that was uncommon then. Now it's pretty standard. Like now they actually have satellite Olympic villages. Like the athletes stay up near their venues, but we did that on our own. Our coaches were heads up, and like in Japan, we stayed in like a little youth hostel up right at the resort, and they got us a place, and we stayed in Deer Valley up close too. But yeah, I think that's the primary difference.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a video of the 2002 Olympics, and they were interviewing these people at the bottom, and they're like, "Who are you here to watch?" And this guy was like full face paint, the American flag. People had Jonny Mosley posters everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh my god!" And everyone was like, "We're here to watch Jonny Mosley do the dinner roll." It was like going crazy in the crowd when you did it, and I was just thinking that either is the most overwhelming, but also like best feeling, or like I don't even know what was going through your head when you're just like watching this like sea of people all there with their posters hanging up, your face on their posters. Like, what did that feel like?
I mean, it's great. It's like you spend your whole career trying to, get recognized for what you do, right? Or it's part of it. And so, when you get there, that's amazing. Like you're fired up that, people are interested in seeing what you do. So, but that also, I think one of the challenging things for me, between the two Olympics from '98 to '02 is, when you're a little more under the radar, you have you seem to have a little more ability to focus.
Yeah.
Going between after '98, obviously, I became sort of, kind of a big deal, at least, in my own mind. And so I was trying to do a lot of things. I was trying to carry the torch, for free skiing. Like I wanted to make my mark known there, and I had, just then you starting to get a lot of endorsement deals and stuff like that, stuff that had always wanted going in, but couldn't achieve. So, I was able to sort of at that time I was, I had a lot of resources to use to train hard. I was trying to create like a business out of it, a career out of it.
Yeah.
And but those are also can be very distracting, right? Like every deal you do requires a day of skiing here or a day of like a shoot here and there. And
Yeah.
so, whereas your competitor might not have that stuff and they're out
Yeah.
grinding. And so, it's a tough because you kind of at the same time you got everything you wanted and you're trying to take advantage of this moment, between the two Olympics and building back up to the Olympics. Because, when you build back up to the Olympics, you get a lot of attention. It's a big sort of hype, and you can take a lot of advantage of that. And so it was a really hard balance between, trying to train and kind of get yourself in that grinding mentality that I had before '98, and that sort of, and also try to take advantage of the opportunities in front of you. It's very hard, and and you can also get sort of that kind of echo effect where, nobody will tell you really straight what it's all about, what's going on, because you're kind of, it's you can be, whether it's your ego or people don't want to tell you what you need to hear or something like that. So I think, like, I guess my point is when you see guys like that with a face painted and this sort of like this, having fans and all that stuff, it's a two-edged sword. It's great, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's what you want, but on the other hand, it's very hard to like forget, like ignore that and get yourself in that mode, that scrappy mode that you were in before. So.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you gave the people what you wanted. You did the dinner roll, and then not only that, but you clipped your skis off and you jumped into the crowd, which I just thought was awesome because no one would ever even think about doing that nowadays. And I was just like, it's sick. He just made it like so much more fun and
I
simple.
was very excited,
Yeah,
and it wasn't even so much that I had put so much. I just wasn't sure I was thinking. You know how it is, like when you lay down a run, you just don't even know. Even if you've laid down that run dozens of times, you never know what's going to happen in the middle of a mogul course. I mean,
yeah,
you blow out, like stuff happens, and And obviously this run I was trying to do was not, I literally only figured out, I only got to like 98% proficiency on that trick probably 2 weeks before the Olympics. I mean, I had been working on it and I had to abandon it. I had been working on it since, I think I figured out that trick in 99. So I knew how to do it since then for the X Games. And then I had started trying to do it in the moguls, say around 2001 in the summer, before the games down in Chile. And I couldn't really ever get it in its true form in the moguls. And so I kind of had to abandon it because I had to get my spot on the team, and then I had to win it, get a podium to get the Olympics. So
Yeah.
I had to sort of like go back to the original tricks. But as soon as I got my spot, I went and started working on it again. So I just didn't have that much mileage with it. And so when I laid it down and I got it and I crossed that line, I was just like euphoric. And I didn't even really know what place I was going to be or whatever. I just was so relieved that I had done what I wanted to do, and you know that feeling. I mean, it's stressful trying to do these runs and put together these programs and train and all that stuff. And so I remember having that, I saw that little crew over there, which is, in 98, a couple of my friends, 4 of my friends, I mean, my family was there, but like 4 of my friends, my good friends came to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course in Salt Lake, I had a whole crew. And so I saw them and I just wanted to like hug them all. And so I jumped over those pads, and you'll see like it's totally illegal, right? Because they're trying to drug test you, right? They don't want you to leave. Like, I don't know if they're scared that you're going to accept it. It's kind of stupid, right? Like freestyle, the crowd should be right there, but the Olympics, they've got the barriers. I think they're afraid you're going to like get a get a clean bag of pee or something and stuff in your pocket. I don't know, but I just felt compelled to jump over there and hug my crew, and then they yanked me back in the crowd. But yeah, I was fired up.
Yeah.
I guess I hadn't known I'd lost at that point either, so I probably thought I'd won. I did hang on to the lead for a while, so I think I thought I had done it.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
It was my own doing.
Yeah, but you still changed the sport with that run. So, I mean, obviously an Olympic gold medal would have been sweet, but look at, what that run has done for generations. I mean, so yeah.
I'll take that. Ava, I appreciate you helping me feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after the Olympics were over, amazing career, and then there was kind of this like, I don't really know where the shift was between like Olympics over and then you became like this like family man. What was like that switch like?
Let's see. How did I become a family man? Well, I mean, first of all, like, it's, you take I have a great family, right? 2 older brothers, my parents, and we're super close. And I just love them. I love hanging out with them. And you take it for granted when you're your age, and that's normal. That's fine. And, but as you start to like get older in your life, you realize you're like not an island. And, you start to understand the feelings of like how your mother feels about you doing dangerous stuff, and all these sort of like you start to have these realizations. And I think at some point I realized like, wow, I really love my family, and that's a thing. And having that bond with your wife and kids, and just especially I think as as great as winning the Olympics was, and what an exciting time that was, it also was like a little bit like tumultuous, right? Like it's kind of wild, and like it's just a lot of stuff going on, and you're getting pulled in a lot of different directions, and I think I was kind of like, man, where's my where's my, who was I? Like, what about my, who am I? Like, where's my sort of a baseline,
Yeah.
and, when I met my wife, who I had known in high school, but uh, didn't date in high school,
Yeah.
but it just really was like, oh man, she knows me. She knows me for who I am, and like this is amazing. Like
Yeah.
this is what I need, and I was just like, when I pursued her hard in that way to like get going on that front, and be I really was like got to a point too where I was doing all these cool things in life, and I wanted someone to share it with. It
Yeah.
was weird. I was like off on the tangent, and I've had great coaches and mentors. Cooper Shell was with me all the time, and so it's not like I didn't have friends, and then you obviously have your teammates and stuff like that. But it's a different thing with your wife, and so that started it, and then I think naturally it's sort of one of those things where I don't even know how we made a decision to start having a family, but it was sort of one of those things where I was like, I don't know. It's like I've always had this sense that I wanted to like, you gotta keep moving on in life. Like you got to keep, like ticking off these things. Like I wanted to finish school, and you're like, well, okay, I guess the next thing is family life. And so, and that part I was totally blown away by, right? And I think your dad will confess, like when you're having kids and then like being able to raise your kids and hang out with your kids and ski with your kids is like it's amazing. It's like it's incredible. You don't even understand how cool it is and how fun it is. So had I even known, had I even realized that then, I would have started even earlier and had more. I didn't realize how great it is, to the point where you're like, now my kids are in high school and I'm like, oh no, they're going to be gone soon. What am I going to do? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a natural transition, but I think, that's it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I always feel bad for my parents because, my oldest sister just moved out. My second oldest sister, she's moving out in a year.
Yeah.
I still got some time. I still have 4 years. Then I'm seeing
Yeah.
like what are they gonna do once I'm gone? Like it's,
Yeah.
the house is gonna be so lonely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I even though obviously I'm not a parent, I feel for my dad and my mom, and I'm just like, it makes me sad. I don't want to leave them by themselves. It's like,
Yeah. You got to make sure you just come see him once in a while. It's good that you recognize that at your age. I certainly did not think about that.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it's true. It's
yeah,
a tight crew. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And I just wanted to mention one more thing. You mentioned Cooper Shell and like working with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, his nephew is on my team. Just wanted to like
Oh yeah.
point that
Like,
out.
is his name maybe Cooper too or something?
No, his name is River.
River. That's right.
Yeah,
River. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah,
He's been. I know that's been really cool because Coop um, is a phenomenal mentor coach. It was a great, incredible mogul skier himself. And I, have a, he just changed my life really, right?
yeah,
But everyone, you'll see after mogul skiing life, freestyle life, everyone kind of you burn out a little bit. Everyone, there's always a period there where you're just like, I can't see it. I'm not interested. Like, don't talk to me about that. It's just like you go through this phase. It's a lot. It's a big portion of your life. You put a lot into it, and Coop and I went, through the fire together, and we did a lot. And so then he kind of when I when the family life, he did his own thing, but I hadn't really seen him touch moguls very much, right? And
yeah,
he loves to ski and he snowboards a bit, does all kinds of stuff, but it's been really cool to see him, kind of with River. It's kind of given him a little bit of like, okay, getting back into it, and he's back on the scene. So good for River. Get Coop back in get back on the program. So
Yeah. So I think we're almost just about there on time, but I always end the Happy Podcast with same question every time. This one's pretty difficult. How do you define happiness?
Yeah, that's a good one. I should have known that's how you had to look around. Happiness. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, let's see. I do think being healthy is really important. People always say that, like, oh, your health is important. I feel like that can just physically. I mean, there's a lot of ways of different being healthy, right? But and I do feel like at least physically, feeling good about yourself will change my happiness quotient a lot. Just a little bit of exercise here and there. And then I think, at least psychologically, having something fulfilling to work on, that you wake up thinking about, whether that be your kids or a career thing or having multiple different things to work on. For me, I think is sort of where I derive my happiness from, is where I feel the most sort of joy, I guess, is when I'm like working on something that I'm interested in.
Yeah, and I love asking that question because every single person has a completely different answer every time, and I just love hearing everyone's opinions on it.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah, so I think that's about it. Thank you so much for being on. This is awesome.
I'm impressed. Great work, Eva.
Thank you.
Keep grinding, keep going, and I'm gonna need one of those sweatshirts at one point.
Absolutely. Right after this, we'll hook you up.
Right on.
Yeah.
Have a great holidays, and I'll be looking for your results. Keep me informed.
Okay. Sounds good. I will.
All right.
All right.
Good luck on this. Bye, guys.